If you're an avid trail runner, then you've probably already heard the news about UTMB seemingly pushing out a local race in Whistler and setting up their own event. It's led a lot of trail runners to call for a boycott of UTMB events. For myself, I have already decided not to sign up for the lottery next year and focus my next season exclusively on non-UTMB events. But say what you will about UTMB, and people certainly are saying a lot, it was pretty easy to find their races, and if you're coming from someplace like North America, to plan a European vacation around their races. Fortunately, there are plenty of kick-ass races in Europe that UTMB has nothing to do with and deserve your support. I personally use ahutu.com to do my research. And these races do need your support. A few races that I would happily recommend have already been canceled. That said, many live on. So today I'm sharing my 5 favorite trail races in Europe that you should consider doing instead of UTMB. Number 1, Panoramalauf rund die Burg Are. Fortunately, pronouncing the name of the race is not a qualification to actually do the race. So in this one, you've got distances of 54, 35, and 19 kilometers. This race holds a special place in my heart. It was, I would say, the first real trail race that I participated in. Back in the US a long time ago, I remember kind of stumbling into a 10K race and doing that, loving it, but never really thinking of trail racing as a sport ever again, until I moved to Europe and started doing these things more regularly and finding out about these events. And this one in the Ahrtal region of Germany was the first one that I signed up for. That was, I did the 35 kilometer version, and just remember it really kicked my ass. I'm certain that I didn't train properly for it, but it was a beautiful race. And this is in a part of Germany that is kind of overlooked because it's right next to the Mosel region, which is also very gorgeous, but it does get a lot more tourism. You go to the Ahrtal, you're still getting that kind of scenic Western German wine region, and it's just a little less tourist heavy, if you will. I remember the first time that I went, I didn't hear any English when I went there, if you use that kind of as a barometer of how touristy a place is. So it was a really fun race. It's a gorgeous area. It was very clearly run by a local community that's very passionate about this, so I would highly recommend doing that. And actually, if things work out, I'm hoping to do it in this next season and actually film it this time. When I ran it, it was still years before I started obsessively recording all of my races. Now, the website does leave a little something to be desired, and it looks like the 2024 date hasn't been announced yet. That said, it is always on the last Saturday of August, so most likely August 24th, 2024. Next up, Allgäu Panorama Marathon. Now don't let the word marathon fool you, there is an ultra distance as part of this race. You can do a 69K ultra, a marathon, an 18-kilometer climb, or a half marathon. I ran it this past season as part of my recovery after the DNF in Innsbruck. I took some time off from that race, recovered, and then this was kind of my launch back into trail running, and I did the 18-kilometer one, and it was a really fun, just straight up climb. And then once you're at the top, you get transportation back down, and the suckers doing the marathon, well, they keep going. But it was a really fun race, and it's in a place called Sonthofen in Germany in the Allgäu region of Bavaria. And it's really a nice entry point into Oberstdorf, which is a little further south. So you can really make a long weekend of it. We spent about 5 days in the area total, a little bit for the race, down to Oberstdorf, and did all kinds of things besides, of course, we did some trail running, hiking, stand-up paddleboarding, and it's a gorgeous region. You're also really close to Austria, so if you want to extend your trip, you can keep going further south and down to Austria. Speaking of Austria and that DNF I mentioned earlier, I still would recommend the Innsbruck Alpine Trail Run Festival. You know when somebody breaks up, they say, oh, it's not you, it's me. Well, in this case, it was my knee, not the race. The race was wonderful, Innsbruck was great, had a wonderful time, except for my freaking runner's knee. Could have done without that, but that wasn't Innsbruck's fault. That was an injury that happened a couple weeks earlier, and I just didn't recover in time. And in this one, you've got tons of distances: 110, 82, 57, 42, 35, 25, 17, and even an 8-kilometer race. Also, it's a very accessible race to get to. There's a train that goes from Munich right directly to Innsbruck. You can do the race, go back up north to Munich in Bavaria, or you can just go further south and you're in northern Italy all of a sudden, and you got the Dolomites right there. It's just a wonderful region to be in. Last year, and I think for the past couple of years, it was the first weekend of June, and next year it seems to be in the first weekend of May for 2024, so just keep that in mind. Number 4, the Blair Castle Trail Weekender in Scotland. I don't know what it is about Scotland, and I'm sure Scottish people hate it when foreigners kind of talk about the romanticism of Scotland. But I'm sorry, there's a lot of romanticism associated with Scotland, and there's something about being in, the national parks of Scotland, running around, that kind of brings out that inner Braveheart in everybody that just wants to charge up a mountain and scream and be tough, and the warrior in you comes out. And that's kind of how I felt running around in the Dag Up and Doon, which is just so much fun to say, the Dag Up and Doon race in Scotland. We were quite lucky because this race is in the end of May. And, Scotland, it's up there. It can still be pretty cold and rainy. And when we were in Edinburgh, it was a cloudy, windy, some misty rain. Not exactly idyllic running conditions. But once we took the train up to Blair Atoll, it was, as locals told us, the first sunny weekend that they had the entire year. So we looked out, the race was phenomenal, had a lot of fun, and it really, this also a little bit like the one in the Ahrtal of Germany, this one really felt like a race run by the local community and something that we were happy to support, and I would go back there in a heartbeat. Oh yeah, and the distances for this one are a 58, 30, 13, and a 7-kilometer run. Last but not least, and if you follow me, you've heard me talk about this one before, the Hydra Trail event in Greece. I could blabber on for hours about Hydra. It's this gorgeous car-free island, about a 2-hour ferry ride south of Athens. Leonard Cohen kind of made the island a little bit famous for people outside of Greece with his songwriting. A Bird on the Wire was written there. This tattoo, if you can see that up there, that is inspired by Leonard Cohen and writing Bird on the Wire and his connection to Hydra and how much we loved Hydra. And actually I got that tattoo after running the race, went on back to Athens and got some fresh ink. So that's how much I love this area, and that's how much fun I had running the Hydra Trail event. So the Hydra Trail event's a little bit earlier in the year, April 13th and 14th, depending on the distance you do. And speaking of distances, you've got a 38K with 2,000 meters of elevation and an 18K rock race with 1,000 meters of elevation. Now I live in flat Berlin, so training for high elevation is something that I continually struggle with. But this one was particularly challenging. I did the 38-kilometer race, and I remember that at the time being the hardest thing I've ever done. I don't know if I was perfectly trained for that race, so that probably added to it. I've since done further distances, and I'm sure I've maybe done higher elevations. But on that day, it was really hot. There's very little cover, and you're just getting pummeled by that sun the whole race. That said, it's Greece, and you get the smell of fresh oregano around you while you're climbing up. I mean, like I said, I can blab on and on about that race and Hydra for hours, so I definitely recommend that one if you're going to Greece in April. And the weather's just great. Like if you're coming from someplace like me in Berlin, where April's still not exactly the nicest month of the year, going down to Greece that time of year just helps you get a little bit of sunshine and maintain a little sense of sanity. All right, those are just some of my favorites I've done, but do know there are tons more that you can find by looking online at websites like ahutu.com. And one of my favorite things about living in Europe is that if your dates don't line up with a race, but you really want to cover that trail, you can generally get around by train very easily, much more easily than in the United States or Canada or a lot of other places in the world for that matter. So you can take the train, go cover that trail. If it's a long distance trail, that'll take you a few days. You can do some fast packing. So even if your dates don't line up with the race, you can still get the GPX route of the race and do the route. You just, don't have the crowd support or the music at the finish line there for you. And I'll go ahead and leave you with that to mull over. Thanks as always for watching. Like, subscribe for more travel and trail running videos. Leave a comment letting me know what your race plan is for 2024, and click on up over here for my playlist of hiking and trail running videos.